After a grueling 14-year journey filled with sweat, sacrifice, and resilience, Raquel Pennington ascended to the pinnacle of the UFC, clinching a unanimous decision victory over Mayra Bueno Silva at UFC 297 to pick up the vacant Women's Bantamweight Championship. But the road to the title was far from smooth, with numerous obstacles standing in her way before she even set foot in the octagon on Saturday night. In today's episode of Mindset of a Champion, we delve into the mental fortitude and unwavering determination that propelled Pennington to UFC glory. And guys, just like we always talk about, all of these obstacles, all of these mental roadblocks that these athletes have overcame, you can use these same skill sets in your own lives, in your own goals, as you look to unleash greatness. So guys, let's get after it. All right, welcome back to the channel. My name's Mitch, and this is ChampMind Studios, where we break down the mindset and habits of some of the most successful people in the world champions in their respective career fields. We figure out what makes them great from a psychological perspective, and we apply some of those skills into our own lives, into our own goals, as we look to unleash greatness. And guys, I was wrong about Raquel Pennington. Well, I was right to a certain extent, but I was proven wrong. Let me just say that. I said last week in my breakdown of the UFC 297 card that I thought Pennington was going to face some demons. She was going to be haunted by the ghost of Amanda Nunes, the ghost of the beatdown that Amanda Nunes gave to her in her first quest at UFC Gold back in 2018. And I thought that was going to play a factor. I thought she was going to come out timid. She was just not going to be herself mentally, and that was going to allow Mayra Bueno Silva to capitalize. I was kind of right, but I was proven wrong in the sense that she was able to overcome those demons, shut them out, come forward, march forward, and become UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion. And listen, I love when I'm proven wrong. I love when these athletes are able to overcome those roadblocks, because that's what it's all about. That is what becoming a world champion is all about. It's not about, people think it's just about going in there and dominating your opponent, and they only see the physical side of it, right? They don't understand the years of hard work, sacrifice, and the doubt that goes into a fighter's mind every single time they step foot into that cage, regardless of how talented they are, regardless of, who the opponent is and where they are currently at in the rankings and what their skill set is. Every single fighter experiences that doubt. And especially somebody like a Raquel Pennington, who was 35 years old, who fought for the title once before. It did not go well, and knew that she needed to get this win if she ever wanted to obtain her goal of becoming UFC champion. So the doubt was lingering. And I want to read this quote directly from Pennington. She talked about it in the post-fight press conference, what her mindset was that morning, and how she almost, she almost didn't go out there. So let's go ahead and read this directly from Raquel Pennington. But before I get into that, guys, if you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. You do not want to miss what is coming from ChampMind Studios in 2024. Like I said, I've got a lot of content coming your way. We're going to dissect and analyze some of the most successful people and teams on planet Earth. We're going to figure out what makes them great, and we're going to apply that to our own lives, some of the challenges that we're facing, and it's going to help us overcome them and unleash greatness. It was a weird morning, Pennington said. Another mountain I had to climb, right? It's been 14 years of hard work, and I woke up this morning and to be in this position and to have a second opportunity to fight for the world title, I questioned everything. I woke up, I couldn't breathe, my throat was hurting, I didn't sleep last night. I looked at my coaches, I looked at Tisha, her wife, and it was just I can't do this. But they were like, yes, you can. So honestly, I had to spend all day having to get my mind right and understand that I can push through another mission and needed a championship mindset. It took a lot of talking with my coaches. I did some sports psychology, and that's the key there. We're going to talk about that. My sports psychologist was there. We just sat there, and then I turned around, I pulled out my journal, and started writing. I really sat there and thought about it. 14 years of hard work. Am I really going to let this cold bother me? All right, so a couple things to unpack there. And first of all, the sports psychology thing is huge. And I alluded to that last week. I wish I would have known that Pennington was working with a sports psychologist. I probably would have picked her to win. I said that last week. And I should have done a little bit more research. I should have looked into that a little bit more, because I probably would have picked Pennington to win that fight. Sports psychology is a game changer. And I wish more high-level, not just athletes, but mixed martial arts fighters, I wish they would embrace that, because it will take you to new heights that you never thought imaginable. And I'm glad Pennington sees that. And, the big thing there, she talks about, she started journaling. She started writing things down, being very intentional, getting her subconscious mind, we talk about that a lot, right? Getting that subconscious to think in a positive state, to get you into that mindset of, I can do this. I can do this. You start fighting that voice. You start fighting that negative voice that's telling you, you're not good enough. You've been there before, Raquel. You've been here before. You couldn't do it. You're not good enough. That voice is lingering in the back of your mind, and you have to shut it down. And there's a lot of ways to do that. Journaling is very effective. So let's start with that. All of us go through this at least multiple times a day, right? It is that constant, that war going on in our minds, to where you got two voices. One is telling you positive things. You're good, man. You're great. You can do this. You got this. You can get this promotion. You can pass this test. You can hit this PR on bench press right now. All the positive voices, right? That's the good side. But then you have the louder one, the negative voice. The negative voice that's telling you, nah, man, you're stupid. You can't do this. You're not good enough. Everything everybody ever said about you that told you can't do this, you're not going to obtain any level of success, they were right. And that voice gets really loud. And sometimes it can be difficult to shut that voice out. And when you start writing on a piece of paper, not typing, listen, I think there's power in taking a pen or a pencil and actually writing something down. And when you start repeating these positive affirmations, you start shutting that negative voice down a little bit more. You're never going to totally silence it. That voice is always going to be there, right? It's always going to be on your shoulder, but you can silence it a little bit more and more with those positive affirmations. So I love that she mentions that, and I love that she did that, and I'm sure that helped her get in that flow state. We talk about that flow state all the time. It is that ability to just kind of go out there, let the result go, let all the feelings of doubt and all the, crazy things going on in your mind, let that all go, and just let your actions take control, right? Get into that flow state. Let your performance take over, right? That's what that flow state is. That's what it's all about. And Raquel Pennington got into that flow state. And, it's one of those things where she talks about how she was sick, that morning. That sickness, I guarantee you, I am willing to bank everything I have. That sickness was caused from the feelings of negativity, from the voice of negativity. A lot of times when we get sick, I've been here before, guys. You wake up in the morning and you feel like garbage and you just don't want to go to work and you end up calling in sick. 90% of the time, that is just your body reacting to your mind. The stress that you're putting yourself through, the stress of your job, the stress of whatever challenges are going on in your life, and it's causing you physical illness. And it's really powerful. And I'm sure Pennington, she totally got over that when she started getting into that flow state. She probably felt a whole hell of a lot better. Those cold-like symptoms probably either totally diminished or were barely even there. So that's huge, right? The other thing here I want to talk about, she channeled and used her support system, and she's got a great support system, a phenomenal team of coaches. But let's talk about her wife. Let's talk about fellow UFC fighter Tecia Torres. One of my favorite female fighters of all time, by the way. I'm a huge Tisha Torres fan. Love her style. Love that Taekwondo style. Her nickname is the Tiny Tornado. I was watching this girl way back in Invicta FC, and I just, as a traditional martial arts guy myself that came from a karate background, I love seeing how she took Taekwondo and made it work in MMA, and she was so quick, so fast, and just, I was a huge fan of hers. But in any case, she is, you talk about having a partner that understands the game, understands the sacrifice, understands everything that Pennington was going through, and she's able to talk to her, able to tell her, like, listen, Raquel, you got this. You got this. You can do this. That's powerful. That is huge. And, again, you have to realize that nobody ever became successful by themselves. And I said this many times on this channel. Success is built on the support of the people in your corner, the people in your life that love you, that care about you, that want to see you win, your family, your friends, your support system. Don't take them for granted. And Raquel Pennington did not. And she is very, very lucky. I'm sure she'll tell you that, to have an amazing woman in her life, an amazing partner in her life in Tisha Torres. That played a huge role in her being able to wake up that morning, shake off those, that illness, right? And get out there and make Mayra Bueno Silva quit. Put that pressure on Bueno Silva. Everything that was on her shoulders, everything that she was experiencing, those feelings of doubt, she went in there in the octagon. She put it all on her opponent. So let's talk about her performance against Bueno Silva. And listen, I already know, I can tell what most of the comments are going to be below here. You're gonna have, listen, there's so many negative people in MMA, and people are just gonna say, oh, that fight was boring. That was such a boring fight. She should have let her hands go more. She should have listened to her coaches more. Listen, guys, that's not what we're talking about here today. Yes, on one hand, and I said this in my last video, I think she could have let her hands go a little bit more. I think there was potential there for her to finish Bueno Silva, especially given how gassed and how tired she was, how tired Bueno Silva was. There was opportunities there. But at the same time, let's look at the strategic brilliance in what Raquel Pennington did in that fight. She realized that she's taken on a dangerous opponent, but a pretty unproven opponent, right? Yes, Bueno Silva was just coming off a very impressive ninja choke submission of former champion Holly Holm, the very same Holly Holm that has beaten Pennington twice. But outside of that, she really hasn't fought anybody in terms of the upper echelon of the division. And she certainly hasn't been in the deep waters, hasn't been in the 5th round, hasn't been in those championship rounds and had to overcome adversity, right? So Pennington recognized that, and she drug Bueno Silva into the deep end of the pool. And, you saw there's such a huge difference there, right? Because we're talking about a girl that was so used to just, either getting quick finishes or, being like the bully in her fights. But Bueno Silva is usually able to kind of bully her opponents. Pennington bullied her. And, a lot of people are like, oh, well, she clinched her too much. She made it boring. That clinch work was what led her to gassing Bueno Silva out. And listen, I get it. I know, from an entertainment perspective, it's not the most fun thing to watch, right? You'd much rather see two fighters standing in the center of the octagon, exchanging strikes, slugging it out, right? That's what you want to see. But from a strategy point of view, that clinch work was key because it mentally and physically broke Mayra Bueno Silva. It started wearing her down. That voice of doubt that was in Raquel Pennington's mind before that fight, she changed that. She shifted it into her opponent's mind because her opponent had all the confidence in the world leading up to that. You saw that in a lot of the interviews. You saw that in the press conference. You even saw that in her walk to the octagon. Mayra Bueno Silva had no doubt in her mind that she was going to win that fight until Pennington put that doubt in her, until Her cardio started to diminish. She wasn't able to get those submissions, and she had Pennington in quite a few close submissions there, including I think she had a ninja choke at one point on Pennington. And I even said it. I was watching it with my buddies. I was like, I think Bueno Silva is going to get this submission. But each and every single time, Pennington, she got out of it, and she used it as another opportunity to gas Bueno Silva out. And once Mayra Bueno Silva started to see that, okay, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. I'm having a hard time with this girl. I'm having a hard time getting her out of here. That loud voice, that loud negative voice, it got louder and louder. Mayra, I don't know if you can do this. I don't know if you can finish this girl. She's not, listen, you can't submit her. You're putting her in every submission in the book, and she's getting out of it, and she's getting the better of you standing up, and then she's wearing and tearing you up against the cage. And Bueno Silva was not able to silence that voice. Raquel Pennington took Mayra Bueno Silva's soul at UFC 297, similar to how David Goggins talks about taking the soul of your enemies, right? Of your opponents, of the doubters. You take their soul. They don't think you can do it? Fuck them. Fuck them. I'm going to outwork every single one of them, and I'm going to show them that they can't break me. David Goggins, for those of you that have not read his book, Can't Hurt Me, I highly recommend it, by the way. Or if you're not familiar with who David Goggins is, he's a former Navy SEAL that writes, these books and does these podcasts where he talks about how he was able to build unbreakable resilience. And when he talks about taking souls, he talks about how when he went through Hell Week, Navy SEAL training, Hell Week, right, where they try to break you. They put you through the most grueling and just physically torturing exercises to turn you into a Navy SEAL. The most, listen, Navy SEALs are the most badass, physical, mental, spiritual, whatever you want to call it. They are the most badass warfighting machines on planet Earth. And it's because they put these guys through hell. A lot of people don't make it. And David Goggins was talking about how, one day he's out there with his boat crew, and they're, the instructors are putting them through just a really, really tough workout, right? And the instructors are just laughing at them. They're just watching them. They're just messing with them the whole time as they're sitting there drinking coffee while these guys are, throwing these ridiculously heavy boats up in the air. David Goggins told his team, told his boat crew, guys, we're going to take their souls. Their souls, meaning the instructors. And in unison, they all got together and they just started working harder, and they're lifting these boats up. They're throwing them up in the air. And as a group, they all said, you can't break this boat crew. And that look on the instructors' faces when they realized, like, oh shit, we can't break them. They got us. That's what Raquel Pennington did against Mayra Bueno Silva. She took her soul. So if you're going through a challenge right now in your life, you feel like you can't win. You can't overcome adversity. I want you to tell yourself, regardless of the situation, regardless of what you're currently facing, I want you to tell yourself, I'm going to take their soul. I'm going to take their fucking soul. Tell yourself this. Just say it. Say it with me right now in the back of your mind. Say it. Feel it. Feel the emotion of winning. Feel the emotion of proving everybody wrong. Feel the emotion of, being victorious and obtaining the success that you want. Feel it all as if it's happening right now. I'm going to take their fucking soul. Say it with me. Because that's what champions do. The other piece of Raquel Pennington's journey that I want to discuss that eventually led her to UFC Gold is her ability to fall forward. Because let's talk about resilience for a second. A lot of people think the word resilience, they tie it to bouncing back, right? The ability to bounce back from adversity. I hate that word, bounce back. You know why? Because why would you ever want to go back, right? Why would you ever want to go backward? Fall forward. March forward. Learn from the setback. Learn why you failed. Learn what brought you back. But you march forward. And you overcome the situation. Raquel Pennington, when she fought Amanda Nunes in her first title fight in 2018, she got absolutely destroyed. And on the surface level, there's not a lot of shame with that, right? It's Amanda Nunes, the most dominant champion in women's bantamweight history, one of the most dominant champions in the history of the UFC, regardless of gender, regardless of male, female, one of the most dominant champions in the history of our sport. Not a lot of shame in getting dominated by somebody like that, but that fight, it was, the narrative after that fight was the coaches should have stopped that way earlier than they did. Pennington was getting beaten down. She was getting killed. They should have thrown the towel in. Some people are saying, "Oh, she's got heart. Pennington has heart. She's still in there, even though she's getting totally dismantled. This girl's got heart, right?" Some people saw that, but the masses said, "This is a total mismatch. She shouldn't even be fighting for a title." And Pennington had to deal with that for years, right? She had to deal with those naysayers. But she overcame that adversity. She didn't bounce back. She fell forward. She went 7-2 after that Nunes fight and is now UFC champion. And I'd be very curious to know, if I ever get the opportunity to interview Pennington or just talk to her, I'd be very curious to know at what point did she bring in the sports psychologist. Have a feeling it was after that Nunes fight. And I have a feeling she'll tell you that was a game changer for her. That took her career to the next level. That took her from, a journeyman / perennial contender that was known for being tough, that was known for, being a tough out, but not necessarily the best fighter in the division. Took her from that to where she is now. And I know what a lot of like I said, there's a lot of negative people in this sport. So I know what some of the comments are going to say below here. You're going to have people saying her title reign is going to be short, that she's going to lose to somebody like Kayla Harrison or Juliana Pena. And that might be true. It might. I mean, we don't know. Listen, there's a lot of interesting possibilities in the post-Amanda Nunes era for that bantamweight division, especially with the signing of Kayla Harrison, who's set to fight Holly Holm at UFC 300. By the way, UFC 300 is a stacked card. If you're one of those negative people that are trying to say that card is weak, you're out of your mind and you know nothing about MMA. Let me just say that right there, because this is one of the most stacked cards ever. You got like 8 former champions on it already, and the main event has yet to be announced. So you are an absolute fool if you don't think that UFC 300 card is stacked. But nevertheless, Kayla Harrison is signed. She's fighting Holly Holm. She could fight Raquel Pennington next, or you could do Juliana Pena. Very tough fights, both of them for Pennington, but regardless of whether or not she has a lengthy title run, loses her first title defense, doesn't matter. She will go down in history as UFC champion. That's something that only 1%, if that, of fighters can say. So guys, with that, I hope you liked this video. Hope you took some valuable lessons from this, particularly with the resilience, with the mindset of, hey, let's fall forward. We're not going backwards, we're going forward. We're going to take the souls of our enemies, everything, all of the doubt, all of the negativity that demon voice is telling us. We're going to push that out and push some of that onto our enemies, onto our opponents. And we're going to make the positive voice louder. We're going to make that positive voice a lot louder. We're going to get into that flow state, and we're going to whoop some ass, because that's what it's all about. So guys, until next time, again, hit that subscribe button if you're new, ring that notification bell, and let's unleash greatness. Boom!